The thing about branding that a lot of people completely get wrong is that they think if they just have the perfect logo and pick some nice colors, then boom, done. Branding, check, mark it off the list. When you think about brands like Apple or Coca-Cola or Mercedes-Benz, you can spot those logos from a mile away, right? That's because they have put time into their brand identity. I always ask people, what do you want people to feel when they experience your brand? All right, all right. Hey, y'all. We are back for another Tips Tuesday. And as promised, last week I told you we were going to be talking about branding. So here we are. There are some key things that I need you to understand about branding. And before we dive in deeper, in the coming weeks, we are going to touch up on it from a very high level space today. Okay. So here's the quick version. Your brand is actually made up of two different pieces, and that includes your brand image and then your brand voice. The brand image is the visual stuff. So think your logos, your colors, your fonts, and then your brand voice is how you actually communicate with your audience. The thing about good branding is that both need to work together for your brand to actually stick in people's minds. And that's ultimately what you want, right? When those two things are misaligned, then your brand just kind of ends up feeling a little off. Okay, so let's dive into it a little bit more and really get into it, right? So, the thing about branding that a lot of people completely get wrong is that they think if they just have the perfect logo and pick some nice colors, then boom, done. Branding, check, mark it off the list. But branding is more like building a house and only focusing on what the branding looks like from the street while completely ignoring what it's actually like to walk in and experience the house is going to leave you missing pieces. Okay. So your brand needs both the visual appeal and then the personality to match, right? So let's talk about your brand image first. The brand image is the visual side of your business. So the logos, the colors, the fonts, the overall aesthetic. Now, we talked about this last week, and I told you that branding is not just those things, though, right? These things are very important pieces of branding. This is what catches someone's eye. And we're visual people by and large, but when people are scrolling on Instagram or they land on your website, that visual piece is what may initially catch their attention. But what makes the brand image actually effective is the consistency across the board. So when I say consistency, some people will have a whole brand image. They'll have the logos, they'll have the colors, they'll have the fonts. And then they go to create a quick social media graphic and they'll use a close enough color or a similar color, or they go pick like their favorite color because, that's what they want to do. But consistency is using your brand elements all of the time and not just some of the time. So, not using the kind of similar colors or the close enough fonts, actually using the ones that are defined for your brand. And nowadays, with tools like Canva, who allow you to create your whole brand in there. So every time you go in to make a social media graphic or an email header or a YouTube video thumbnail, your elements can be right there for you without you having to go and hunt for them and find them every single time. Okay, so it's kind of in 2025, there's kind of no excuse not to. When you think about brands like Apple or Coca-Cola or Mercedes-Benz, you can spot those logos from a mile away, right? That's because they have put time into their brand identity. And you know that brand from Coca-Cola as soon as you see it. You know the sleek overall design of an Apple product as soon as you see it. Those kind of things all feed into the brand image, right? And I know you may be thinking, like, well, my business is a small business. I don't have the budget of so and so. And I hear you. But really, it's not about budget. It's just about the effort that you put into it. Whether you are defining and doing your branding stuff on your own or you are hiring these things out, it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg to have a consistent brand. Okay. And consistency is what really matters. So when I work with clients, I always ask people, what do you want people to feel when they experience your brand? The visual piece of your brand should trigger that feeling, whatever it is, whether it's soft and approachable and your colors, fonts, and designs reflect that, bold and energetic, and you show up that way. Professional and trustworthy. So, everything from your logo to your color palette to your fonts all communicate those things. And in the coming weeks, we're going to dive deeper into the specifics of creating a cohesive brand image. But for now, just know your visuals are telling a story about your business, whether you are intentional about it or not. The other piece is the brand voice. And this is what people hear and also feel. Okay. This is a piece that a lot of brands forget about and essentially drop the ball, right? The brand voice is how you actually communicate with your audience. So it's the words that you choose, it's the tone and personality in your writing, it's how formal or casual you sound, the phrases that you use over and over again, and then the overall vibe when you're speaking or writing or communicating with your audience, right? So using Studio 117 as an example, I want my brand to always feel approachable. I always want it to feel informative. I come from a corporate background, a government background. And so one of the things when I started my business was like, I want more of a casual vibe. I want to just feel like myself and not like this extra polished version. So, being messy and imperfect is okay versus like the extra professional I's dotted and T's crossed all the time. Like that's the way I want my brand and my brand voice to come across, right? So your brand should be consistent across like every email that you send, every social media post that you create, every post that you put on your blog, or if there is website copy on your website, that should all be in that actual voice. And the most critical part about your brand voice is that the brand voice actually needs to match your image. So you can't have like soft and approachable brand image, and then you have this extra professional, polished, trustworthy voice. It kind of is like, there's a disconnect there, right? So, whatever you are looking to have people feel in the image, it needs to also translate into your voice. Okay. When the brand image and brand voice work together, this is where the magic happens. Like when your visual brand and your communication style are aligned, then people will start to recognize your brand immediately. They recognize your content, they recognize the things that you post and the visuals even before they see your name. They're like, yep, I know who that is. I know what that sounds like. I know what that looks like. They also begin to trust your brand because everything feels cohesive. They see the effort put into it. And then they remember you because you are more consistent. Like, I don't know what we're up to now, but in the days of social media and all of that, like the mind needs to see things a certain number of times before it actually sticks. And so when you're consistent, you are going to stick quicker than brands that are not. And then people will actually connect with you because your brand has clear, thorough personality that resonates. So if you think about the brands that you love and the ones that you follow, I bet that they have both of these pieces nailed down. Their visuals are on point and their brand voice is probably unmistakable. And that's what we want to build for your business in the coming weeks. So, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about how to define and document your brand image. That way, you don't have to second guess your color choices, your fonts that you're using. It almost becomes like a thing that's, brainless. Okay, we have enough decisions to make in our business daily. We don't need to be thinking about which color should I use or which font should I use. Like that is already set for you, right? We want to talk about creating a brand voice that actually sounds like you. right? Your business is a reflection of you. So you want to make sure that it has its own voice that stands out and is not like every other business in your industry. We're going to talk about how to maintain consistency without it feeling rigid or boring. And then y'all know I love some tools and systems, right? So we are definitely going to be talking about the tools and systems that help make dealing with your branding easier. Okay. Before this week, there are a couple of things that I want you to do. Just take a quick audit of your things. I want you to look over your social media posts, like your last 5 social media posts, and then your website homepage, and maybe even the last email that you sent out to your email list. And I want you to ask yourself, do the visuals look like they're from the same brand? Like, would I look at all of those different pieces of content that I just mentioned and say, oh, yeah, that's definitely that person. That's definitely that brand. Does the way you write sound consistent across all of them? So if you look at your social media captions, if you look at your website copy, if you look at your emails, does the way you write sound consistent? Now, there is some nuance that can be had for different platforms. So social media versus your website versus your email. The way that you write might be a little bit different from different platforms, right? Because the way that you talk on Instagram may be different than the way that you talk on Facebook. The way that you talk on Facebook may be definitely different than how you talk on LinkedIn. But does it sound like you across the board? Okay. And then lastly, do your visuals and your voice feel like they actually go together? So, what people are seeing from you and what they are reading or hearing from you, does it actually match? And if you answer no, or I'm not sure to any of those, you are actually where you need to be. It's not a bad thing because we are going to dive into fixing those things in the coming weeks. We'll do it in small chunks because I don't want you to get overwhelmed. And I definitely don't want this to take you away from actually running your business. So we're going to fix it together. Okay. So if you want to dive into a deeper dive of your brand image right now, I actually have a blog post that I wrote that kind of outlines these things a little bit more in depth. You can definitely check that out in the description box. And that will give you a little bit more insight. And also, there's a checklist there that can start to have you working on your brand image and your brand voice, or you can wait until the next time we connect. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you in our next Tips Tuesday.